respected subject teacher, and all our beloved friends. It's me, Aditi Adhikari. And it's me, Jyotishta Pamuru. Today we are here to discuss on the topic complex number, and we would like to begin here. So what is a complex number? A complex number is an ordered pair of two x and y. A complex number is generally denoted by Z or Z1 or W, etc. A complex number has two parts, which is x and y. The x part is the real part and y part is imaginary part. Now we will be talking about the characters, properties, imaginary units, and powers of I. Let's talk about characteristics of algebra of complex number. Talking about the algebra, there are addition, subtraction, multiplication, division in a complex number. We know the addition and subtraction part. Let's talk about the product. Suppose we have two complex numbers Z1 and Z2. Z1 be A and B, and Z2 be C and D. For the product, we use the easiest and interesting rule that Sir has taught. First, we multiply the first two elements of the complex number, which is A and C. A, C. Then we multiply the last elements, B and D. Then we multiply the edges or ends of the two complex number A and D, and then we multiply the middle part B and C. And we have to remember to put a negative sign in front of the L part and the comma after the L part. Now let's talk about multiplicative inverse. Suppose we have complex number Z1, A and B. A multiplicative inverse is such number by which if we multiply this complex number, we will get the value 1. So a multiplicative inverse is also the 1 divided by Z1. The formula for this is A by A square plus B square, comma minus B upon A square plus B square. Such that if we multiply this with Z1, we will get the value 1. Now let's talk about the quotient. Suppose Z1 is divided by Z2, A comma B and C comma D. This is basically Z1 into 1 by Z2, and 1 by Z2 is the multiplicative inverse of Z2. So it is Z1 Z2 inverse. So as we know how to multiply them, we can easily find the quotient. Now let's talk about the properties of complex number. There are several properties such that complex number has additive inverse, additive identity. The multiplication of complex number is associative. It is commutative and distributive over identity, and also there is existence of multiplicative identity and multiplicative inverse. Let's talk about additive identity. The additive identity of a complex number is 0, 0, 0, such that if we add this to any complex number, the value will be the same. The additive inverse of a complex number Z will be minus Z, such that if we add Z to minus Z, the answer will be 0. Let's talk about multiplication. A multiplication of complex number is associative. Multiplication of complex number is commutative. And multiplication of complex number is distributive over identity. As we know these basic two things, so we will talk about the distributive over identity. It means that if Z1 is multiplied with Z2 plus Z3, it can be distributed as Z1 into Z2 plus Z1 into Z3. So the a complex number which has real part 0 and imaginary part 1. It is denoted by I and it is read as iota. The powers of I are I square equals to -1, so that I is root under -1. I3 is -1 into I, which is -I. I4 is -I into I, which is -I square, which is minus into -1. 1. I5 equals to 1 into I, which is I. Now the upcoming values, suppose of I to the power 6 will be repeat from I to the power 2 and I to the power 3, and it will keep going. So the values will revolve around these 4 values. Now let's talk about a single important question which is frequently asked as well. I will be giving you the hints only. First we have to break down this complex part. It will be 1 plus I to the power 2 I, 1 plus -1 into I will be 1 by -I, and here's a trick. We can multiply it by in both denominator and numerator by -I. So it will be 1 plus -I plus I square. It will be 1 plus -I by I square is -1. So after with this, it will be I 1 plus I. We will get
9 minutes pass.
1 plus I, and doing the A minus B into A plus B product, we can keeping the power 9 as a whole, we can get 2 to the power 9 at the final, and the answer will be 512. And that's how we solve. Now I would like to call Pratishta to present her topic. Thank you, Aditi. Now it's me, Pratishta, and I'm going to explain something about conjugate of complex number, its properties, absolute value, some of its properties, multiplicative inverse, and some of the few questions that may be asked. So let's do. Now let us suppose z is equals to x plus iy be a complex number. Then its conjugate is denoted as z bar, which is also defined as x plus iy with a bar which is written as x minus iy. Geometrically, it is denoted as point p dash x comma minus y, which is the reflection of the point p x comma y, which is the complex number z is equals to x plus iy. So this is something about little knowledge about conjugate of complex number. One thing you have to note is that the double conjugate of z is equals to z. So now let us move on towards its properties. Number one property is that the conjugate of sum of two complex numbers z1 and z2 is equals to the sum of their conjugate. Similar to the first property, the second property is that the conjugate of the product is equals to the product of their conjugate. The third property is that the quotient of their the conjugate of their quotient is equal to the quotient of their conjugate. Now the fourth property is that 1 by 2 z plus z conjugate for any complex number z is equals to the real value of z. Similarly, 1 by 2i z minus conjugate of z is equal to the imaginary value of z. Now the fifth property is that for any complex number z, z into conjugate of z is equals to a real number. Due to time limit, I cannot prove all of these properties, so if you want to prove them, you can go through our book. Now I will talk about some of the questions that may be asked from the conjugate of complex number. The first type of question that may be asked is find the conjugate. You can be asked to find the conjugate of 3 minus 4i by 2 plus 3i. To find the conjugate, you just have to rationalize the denominator, and by solving, you can get the answer. And similarly, another type of question that may be asked is you can be given the value of z1 and z2, 2 minus 3i, and you can be asked to prove the properties like prove So these are the type of questions that may be asked. You can just put the value and solve it. So now I will be moving on towards absolute value. So now let us talk about the absolute value. Let z is equals to a plus ib be a complex number, then its absolute value is denoted as z with modulus. It is also called the modulus of z. Similarly, it is defined as a non-negative real number. Now, it is geometrically written as the modulus of z is equals to under root a square plus b square, which we can write real value of z plus imaginary value of z. Geometrically, modulus of z is the distance of z from the origin. So now I will talk about some of its properties, and Samskriti will be explaining some other properties. So now properties. Now the first property is that for any complex number z1 and z2, the absolute value of their product is equal to the product of their absolute value. Similarly, the second property is that the absolute value of their quotient is equal to the quotient of their absolute value. The other properties Samskriti will be explaining, so I will get into the questions that will be asked from the absolute value. From absolute value, you can be given a complex number like 3 minus 4i, and you will be asked to find the absolute value. You can just compare it with a plus ib. So in this situation, a is 3 and b is minus 4. So just add formula. and you can, on solving, you will get the value. Similarly, like that of the complex conjugate, you can, the questions that may be asked is that you can be given the value of complex number of z1 and z2, and you will be asked to prove the properties like 3 minus 4i 2 plus 3i. Then you will be asked to prove the property. So these are the questions that may be asked. You can just put the value and solve it. Now I will move on towards multiplicative inverse. So the question is that to solve, first of all, 3 minus 4i 3 plus 2i to the power minus 1. So since the power is minus 1, we have to exchange 2 plus 3i upon 3 minus 4i. Now rationalize the denominator. 3 plus 2i by 3 plus 4i. On solving, you will get the answer. So this is how you do the multiplicative inverse. So I will only be teaching up to this, and for other Sanskriti will be.
Thank you, Pratishtha. Now I'm going to talk more on the properties of absolute value of complex number. properties हो। अब यसमा चाहिँ थर्ड प्रपर्टीमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि कुनै पनि एउटा कम्प्लेक्स नम्बर टाइम्स त्यसको कन्जुगेट इज अलवेज इक्वल्स टु द मोड्युल अफ कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको स्क्वायर हुन्छ। अनि फोर्थ प्रपर्टीमा चाहिँ के भन्छ भन्दाखेरि कुनै पनि एउटा कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको रियल र इमेजिनरी पार्ट हुन्छ नि, द्याट इज अलवेज लेस देन अर इक्वल्स टु द त्यो कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको मोड्युल हुन्छ। अब फिफ्थ प्रपर्टी भनेको चाहिँ एकदमै इम्पोर्टेन्ट प्रपर्टी हो र यसलाई चाहिँ ट्रायंगल इनइक्वालिटी पनि भनिन्छ। र यसमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि सम अफ द मोड्युल अफ कम्प्लेक्स दुईटा कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको समको जुन मोड्युल हुन्छ नि, द्याट इज अलवेज लेस देन अर इक्वल्स टु द दुईटा कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको इन्डिभिजुअल मोड्युलको सम हुन्छ। अनि यो प्रपर्टी चाहिँ एकदमै राम्रोसँग जान्नुपर्छ र कसरी डिराइभ हुन्छ भनेर चाहिँ बुकमा हेर्नु होला। अब सिक्स भनेको चाहिँ क्वाइट सिमिलर टु द फिफ्थ वान। यसमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि कुनै पनि दुईटा कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको डिफरेन्सको जुन मोड्युल हुन्छ नि, द्याट इज अलवेज ग्रेटर देन अर इक्वल्स टु द इन्डिभिजुअल कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको मोड्युलको डिफरेन्स हुन्छ। यो चाहिँ हाम्रो एब्सोल्युट भ्यालु अफ कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको प्रपर्टिजहरू थियो। त्यसपछि हाम्रो नेक्स्ट टपिक भनेको चाहिँ स्क्वायर रुट अफ कम्प्लेक्स नम्बर हो। कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको सिरिजबाट चाहिँ वान अफ द इम्पोर्टेन्ट टपिक हो र एक्जाममा यसको आउने चान्स चाहिँ एकदमै धेरै छ। र अब यसमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि एज वी नो वी क्यान कन्सिडर जेड भनेको चाहिँ हाम्रो एउटा कम्प्लेक्स नम्बर हो। सो जेड इक्वल्स टु ए प्लस आइटा बी भनेको चाहिँ हाम्रो एउटा कम्प्लेक्स नम्बर भयो। अब हामीलाई चाहिँ टपिकले भनेको स्क्वायर रुट अफ कम्प्लेक्स नम्बर। सो हियर वी आर गोइङ टु राइट एक्स प्लस आइवाईलाई चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ स्क्वायर रुट अफ यो कम्प्लेक्स नम्बरको चाहिँ स्क्वायर रुट मान्यौँ। नाउ हामीलाई एक्जाममा क्वेसन दिएको हुन्छ, सपोज मानौँ 7 माइनस 24 आयोटा भन्ने चाहिँ हाम्रो एउटा क्वेसन हुन्छ होइन। अब यो क्वेसनबाट चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ स्क्वायर रुट थाहा पाउनुपर्छ र यो चाहिँ हाम्रो कम्प्लेक्स नम्बर हुन्छ। अब योबाट थाहा पाउनको लागि चाहिँ we have to find the value of x र y. अब यो x र y को value find out गर्नको लागि we have to solve this. अब यो solve गर्दा we can find x र y को formula plus minus a square plus b square under root plus a by 2 to the power 1 by 2 अनि y भनेको चाहिँ plus minus a square plus b square minus a by 2 to the power 1 by 2 आउँछ. यति फर्मुला निकालिसकेपछि चाहिँ हामीले we can solve the question from the example. अनि इक्जाममा आयो भने सकिन्छ. अब हामीलाई चाहिँ थाहा छ 7 भनेको चाहिँ a हो र 24 भनेको चाहिँ b हो. अब a र b को भ्यालु यहाँ पुट गरेपछि चाहिँ x को भ्यालु प्लस माइनस 4 आउँछ र y को भ्यालु चाहिँ प्लस माइनस 3 आउँछ. अब हामीलाई चाहिँ यो क्वेसन चाहिँ यहाँ आउँछ के हामीलाई थाहा छ यो हाम्रो स्क्वायर रुट हो. अब हामीले चाहिँ यहाँ x र y को भ्यालु त निकाल्यौँ तर हामीले प्लस माइनस भनेर दुईटा भ्यालु छ नि त. अब x र y को ठाउँमा चाहिँ कुनवाला भ्यालु राख्ने पोजिटिभ राख्ने कि नेगेटिभ भनेर त्यो टाइममा चाहिँ हामीले चाहिँ क्वेसन हेर्नुपर्छ र क्वेसनमा चाहिँ a लाई हैन b लाई हेर्नुपर्छ अलवेज. अनि b मा चाहिँ हामीले यदि हाम्रो b को साइन नेगेटिभ छ भने त्यो टाइममा चाहिँ x र y को भ्यालु अफ डिफरेन्ट साइन दिनुपर्छ. भन्नुको अर्थ चाहिँ x भनेको पोजिटिभ 4 भयो भने y भनेको चाहिँ नेगेटिभ 3 हुन्छ र x भनेको नेगेटिभ 4 भयो भने y भनेको चाहिँ पोजिटिभ 3 हुन्छ. अनि for easy to remember हामीले b कहिले कन्फ्युजन हुन सक्छ a र b मा कुन हेर्ने भनेर. सो हामीलाई चाहिँ एकदमै इजी छ के we are from section b right. So always watch b while finding this. अब त्यसपछि हाम्रो यहाँ क्वेसनमा चाहिँ सधैँ नेगेटिभ हुन्छ भन्ने त हुन्न नि त. कहिलेकाहीँ त पोजिटिभ पनि हुन्छ. सपोज मलाई -7 प्लस 24 आई भन्ने पनि त हुनसक्छ. अब यहाँ पोजिटिभ छ भने चाहिँ के गर्नुपर्छ भन्दाखेरि अब नेगेटिभमा चाहिँ x र y को भ्यालु अपोजिट साइन देख्यौँ भने पोजिटिभमा चाहिँ x भनेको पोजिटिभ 4 हुन्छ भने y भनेको नि पोजिटिभ 3 र x भनेको नेगेटिभ 4 हुन्छ भने y इक्वल्स टु नेगेटिभ 3 हुन्छ. द्याट इज नेगेटिभ साइन b मा नेगेटिभ साइन हुँदा x र y को भ्यालु अफ डिफरेन्ट साइन अनि b मा चाहिँ पोजिटिभ साइन हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ x र y को भ्यालु अफ सेम साइन निकाल्ने. अब यसपछि यो हाम्रो जुन भ्यालु आयो x र y को यहाँ हाल्दा चाहिँ we will get plus minus 4 minus 3i चाहिँ हाम्रो एन्सर आउँछ स्क्वायर रुट आउँछ. र अब स्क्वायर रुट फाइन्ड आउट गर्ने चाहिँ हाम्रो एउटा इजी मेथड पनि छ त्यसलाई चाहिँ इन्स्पेक्सन मेथड भनिन्छ. अब त्यसमा चाहिँ के हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो 7 minus 25 भनेको हाम्रो क्वेसन भयो. सो हामीले ब्रेक गर्नुपर्छ 7 लाई 16 minus i minus 24i चाहिँ हामीले ब्रेक गरेको 16 minus i 7 हुन्छ. अब हामीले चाहिँ यो फर्ममा ल्याएपछि चाहिँ we can easily हामीले खास भने चाहिँ यो फर्ममा ल्याएपछि a minus b को होल स्क्वायर को फर्ममा ल्याउनु पर्छ के टु फाइन्ड द स्क्वायर रुट. त्यो ल्याउनको लागि we know 16 भनेको 4 को स्क्वायर हुन्छ अनि माइनस साइन भनेको नि -3 को स्क्वायर हुन्छ नि त. सो we can get in the form of a minus b को होल स्क्वायर. अब यहाँ चाहिँ -25 हालौँ होल स्क्वायर माइनस अब यहाँ चाहिँ प्लस 3i को होल स्क्वायर हालौँ किनकि we all know i स्क्वायर भनेको त -1 हो. सो you all will understand this. अब 24i लाई चाहिँ ब्रेक गरौँ 2ab को फर्ममा 2 अनि 4 भनेको a अनि 3i भनेको चाहिँ b को फर्ममा भयो भनेको चाहिँ 4 minus 3i को होल स्क्वायर को फर्ममा भयो. अब त्यसपछि यहाँ चाहिँ अन्डर रुट त्यो स्क्वायरलाई यता ल्याउँदाखेरि 7 minus 24i आउँछ इक्वल्स टु प्लस माइनस a हुन्छ एन्सर. यो र यो एन्सर हामीले सेम ल्यायौँ नि. सो वी क्यान युज एनी अफ द मेथड्स टु फाइन्ड द स्क्वायर रुट अफ कम्प्लेक्स नम्बर. र कम्प्लेक्स नम्बर फाइन्ड आउट गर्ने बेलामा चाहिँ अब मैले रफली गरे पनि राम्रोसँग ल्याङ्ग्वेज मिलाएर अनि कन्फ्युजन पनि लेख्नुपर्छ. र यति नै थियो आजको टपिक. my friends.
So this is the end of our presentation. If there were any mistakes, please forgive us as this is our first time performing. And yes, if there are any questions, feel free to ask. There are no questions, so thank you.